Okay, so you're going to Japan. Of course, you want to eat great food. You want to eat ramen and sushi and okonomiyaki and all this great stuff. And if you're like me when you travel, your first instinct is I'll just search Google Maps, right? I'll find out what the best restaurants are where I am. But that's a problem in Japan because in Japan, it's one of the few places where the locals don't use Google Maps. They use this other site, which you may have heard of if you've been watching travel videos already from Japan, called Tabelog. And there's two big problems with Tabelog. The first is that you can't really get Tabelog if you're not Japanese. If you search for Tabelog on the App Store in North America, you're not going to find it. Even if you are able to find it, it's completely in Japanese. So unless you speak Japanese, you're kind of out of luck. The other problem is that Tabelog scores are a lot tougher than Google Maps scores. This is Tabelog's own site breaking down how the scores work on their site. Like Google Maps, it's out of 5, but unlike Google Maps, it's pretty rare to get more than a 4. If you look at this, only 0.07% of all restaurants in Japan get more than a 4. Okay, so that's a fraction of a percent. And only 3% get a score between 3.5 and 4. Okay, so I don't know the history of this, but Japanese people are a lot tougher markers when it comes to restaurants than North Americans. And this actually creates another problem for Google Maps because what I learned from watching a lot of travel videos from people that are in Japan is that the Google Maps ratings can be really misleading because when Japanese people use Google Maps, they kind of use the same tough scoring system from Tabelog, but North Americans don't. And so then you're in this weird mental space where if a restaurant got a 4.7 or a 4.8 or a 4.9, which makes it sound like an amazing restaurant, all the advice that the local Japanese people on YouTube told me was don't go there because the only way that a restaurant can get a score that's 4.8, 4.9 is if only tourists go there. If any local Japanese people go there, they're going to be giving it what in their mind is a really high score of 3.5, which is going to bring down the rating. So then you're in this weird situation where you're like, okay, so a 4.2 place is better than a 4.9 place, but a 4.2 place could be one of two things. It could either be a place that's really good for local Japanese people, or is just kind of okay for tourists, right? So it's just very confusing. Now, I mean, the good news is that most of the food in Japan is excellent, so it's a lot harder to, run into problems than it is in North America. But I wanted to find out what are the best places in Japan according to Japanese people. And for that, I needed to use Tabelog, but I can't use the Tabelog app. But there is a workaround, and that is that while the Tabelog app is only in Japanese, there is a Tabelog website, which is in English. And it's a little bit clunky to use, but with a few hacks that I discovered during my time in Japan, you can actually use it really effectively to find some of the best places to eat in Japan. And that's what I'm going to walk you through right now. Okay, so first step, find the Tabelog website. Go into Safari on your iPhone or in Chrome. On your Android phone, type in Tabelog. It's Tabelog. And it should default, it gives you the option actually to view the site in English. So we'll click on View in English. And then you have the basic site right here. Now, if you're going to be using the Tabelog website while you're in Japan, you want to make it as easy to find as you can. If you're on an iPhone, you just want to click on the little share icon at the bottom, the one you would use if you're going to email it to yourself or send it to someone on social media. And you just want to scroll past all of the regular share options and click on the option that says Add to Home Screen. And then you can just give it a simple name like Tabelog, click Add. And then after adding it to your home screen, I just dragged it right beside my Google Maps icon. You can see that up at the top there, a little gray icon there. Just as a reminder, when I was searching for restaurants when I was in Japan, I'm so used to using Google Maps, putting the Tabelog right beside it would just be kind of my mental reminder. Hey, let's try Tabelog first. Now, Tabelog actually has some really nice features that are better than Google Maps in some ways. And one of them is to be able to search on particular areas. When you're in Google Maps, by default, Google Maps will search in your exact area. But often when you're traveling, you want to kind of plan ahead a little bit, right? Like I know I'm going to be in Osaka. next week, or I know I'm going to go visit this particular neighborhood today. I'd like to know ahead of time, what kind of restaurants are in that area. And you can do that in Google Maps. Like if I search on a particular area in Google Maps, like I search on Shibuya Scramble Crossing, you can search on the location first, and then you just stop searching, and then you do your search for restaurants, and it'll default to that same general area, right? But it's a little bit imprecise. Sometimes, depending on what area you're searching on, it's searching more broadly than you would like, and it's just a little bit awkward when you're searching in Google Maps. One of the nice things about Tabelog is by default it will search all of Japan, but if you click on Japan and then click on the location, in addition to finding restaurants near me, which will use the location and work kind of like Google Maps, you can actually type in a station. And because Japan is so great when it comes to public transit, there's subway stations and train stations everywhere, and you can type in a particular train station in the area and the neighborhood that you want to search for in order to find it. If you're not sure what station to use, then that's when it's helpful to go back to Google Maps. And if I'm going to search on like the Shibuya Scramble Crossing, and I'm trying to figure out how to get there from Ueno Station, right? Just do the transit directions and then just scroll down, right, to the last station before you have to walk there, right? And that's going to be the nearest station, or one of the nearest stations to where you're searching. So in this case, it's Shibuya Station. And so then in Tabelog, I can actually start typing in Shibuya, and you'll see it brings up other regions like Shibuya City and stuff like that, but I can actually click on Shibuya Station. I can search on the price range. So generally speaking, food's really affordable in Japan, at least according to where I'm coming from in Canada, but there's also super, super expensive places. So if you know what your budget is, right, like I don't want to spend more than 4,000 yen per person, you can click OK. And then you can do a search. Now, one of the things that I discovered in Tabelog is that by default, it always shows you the most reserved restaurants. And I suspect, I'm just guessing here, that that's because Tabelog, probably their business model is based on people making reservations through Tabelog. But in my experience, the best places to eat in Japan, the little sort of hole-in-the-wall ramen shops and okonomiyaki shops and all that kind of stuff, don't take reservations. So the first thing I was always doing when I was in Tabelog is I would just in the top right-hand corner there change that from most reserved to highest rated. And then you can see, and this gives you an idea, the very highest rated, the absolute best place possible to eat in Shibuya, which is one of the biggest areas in Japan, is a 3.88, which hopefully Tabelog tells you is very good. But again, these are very different ratings than Google Maps. By default at the top, you can scroll around. It's showing you things that are within 800 meters of the station. If you don't want to walk that far, you can change that to 300 meters, 500 meters. It's also helpful if you're searching near your location and you've been walking all day, you don't want to walk any further, and you just want to know what's really close by. The other nice thing about Tabelog is that you can search by cuisine, and this is much, much more precise and fine-grained than a Google Maps search. By default, it just shows you some of the most popular ones, like I want sushi, I want ramen, I want an izakaya, I want a cafe. But if you click on category list in the top right hand corner here, it's an incredibly detailed list. Like do you want conveyor belt sushi? Do you want stand-up sushi? If you're scrolling down, like do you want crab? Do you want monkfish? Do you want eel? Do you want tonkatsu? So if you've got a craving for a really particular type of Japanese food, like I really want a tonkatsu pork cutlet today, I really want some udon noodles, Tabelog's great for really zeroing in on those particular types of cuisine. Now, the one that Tabelog is not great for is finding these places because if you've been to Japan, it's can be quite confusing. It's really, really dense. Some restaurants are like on the 7th floor, some are on the 5th floor. So you still want to use Google Maps to kind of help you get around. And so once you've found a restaurant that you like or a cafe that you like, that's when I would switch back over to Google Maps and I would do a search there and I would save it in Google Maps so that I could find it later. About 75% of the time, I could just type in the name of the restaurant. So this cafe here is Viron Shibuya 10. I could go into Google Maps and I could just do a search on Viron Shibuya And you'll see there, it's actually coming up as Patisserie Viron. So I was able to find it. I can find it there. And then I can just click on the Save button in Google Maps, and I can star it. And then when you're in Google Maps, by default, if you click on the U button at the bottom and you click on Starred Places, it'll show you a list of all the places you starred, and the default is to show them by distance from where you are. So it's a really helpful way to kind of, if you want to do that advanced recon on where you might want to eat in a particular area, and then when you're in that area, you can quickly use that list of starred places to find out which ones are really close to where you are right now, right? Which is really helpful. The biggest problem that I came across when I was using Tabelog, though, is that the name of restaurants in Tabelog is not always exactly the same as it is in Google Maps. I suspect this has something to do with translation. Sometimes it seems to be that the way that restaurants are listed in Tabelog, the actual name of the restaurant will say what the type of food is. It'll say like ramen, blah, 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 or udon, blah, 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 blah. And it just becomes a little bit hard to figure out how to search for that in Google Maps. Also, I think because you're talking about, taking, how something sounds in Japanese and how that should be written in Roman characters, sometimes there would be something in Tabelog that was two separate words, and in Google Maps they were combined, or vice versa. So about 1 in 4 times when I went to go search in Google Maps, I wasn't actually able to find the restaurant that I was looking for in Tabelog, and it was really frustrating because it looked like a great restaurant. I wanted to eat there. And so the hack that I discovered here is that if you are looking at a restaurant in Tabelog, if you click on that restaurant, so let's see this little bakery here, Chiramulo, you'll get access to more details about that restaurant. You can access its reviews, your overviews, and stuff like that. But you'll notice in the top right-hand corner, there's a little map icon, right? And so if you click on the map icon like this, it'll show you where it is on a map. Now, you could just use this to navigate, but that's not going to be as helpful as actually using Google Maps and getting transit directions there or walking directions there. But you'll notice in the bottom left-hand corner on the website, you can say View in Map App, okay? Now, at first, this is annoying because if you click on View in Map App, it's actually showing you the latitude and longitude coordinates for the restaurant, which you can save. But then when you're looking at your starred list, you're going to be like, I can't remember what 35 degrees north and 139 degrees west was, and that's not very helpful. Okay, now this is definitely the hackiest thing about this, but it's super helpful when you're trying to actually save one of your restaurants that you're interested in Google Maps. So you got the latitude and longitude coordinates. Just zoom in, right? Just pinch and zoom until you're pretty close to where that latitude and longitude pin is. And then in the bottom right-hand corner, just press the X to get rid of the pin. And right below the pin is usually the restaurant. So there's Chiramulo. Then you can click on it. Then you can save it. And boom, it's in your Google Maps. So I found that using these sort of two tools together resulted in me finding all sorts of really cool places that I just never would have found in Google Maps alone. Often a good kind of benchmark as a tourist is when you're in a restaurant and you as a tourist are in the minority, right? That most of the people around you are locals. And we found this really cool Hiroshima-style okonomiyaki place in a really touristed area that was almost impossible to find because it was sort of not very well advertised and stuff like that. So I really highly recommend using Tabelog. It really helped surface some really neat places that I just know I never would have found otherwise. A lot of places that were really popular with locals as opposed to with tourists. And I think, it's a little bit clunky, but the combination of using the website to find the best restaurants and then saving them in Google Maps so you've got a reference point to go finding them when you're in the area, I found worked really, really well. And I think resulted in me finding great places to eat in Japan that I never would have found otherwise. So hopefully you found this video interesting. If you did, thumbs up, subscribe, all that stuff. If you got any tips for finding great restaurants in Japan, please put them in the comments. Thanks for watching.